Even folks, hope you're all doing well. It's a good idea to add the file sometimes, isn't it? That's the right one. That's not the right one. There we go. How y'all doing? I hope you're well. Leeds United won. It's a proper graphic on the screen now in 2 seconds. Leeds United won, Spurs won. Not a vintage performance by Leeds, but ultimately, yet again, getting the job done and getting a point. Not a great first half by Leeds. I wouldn't exactly say we were on the beach, but not the energy performance that we're used to seeing from Leeds this season. But the one thing we did get to see in this game that we have seen from Leeds all season was not giving up and continuing to push forward and eventually get the equaliser. Could have got a winner. Could have got two, actually. Sean Longstaff very late on as well. So, yeah, the substitutions tonight definitely made an impact on what was a pretty off-the-pace performance by Leeds United for probably 60 minutes of the game. The subs did make a big difference. Defensively, I thought some of our players did really, really well. I thought Jakob Bial and Joe Rodon were fantastic. I thought DCL held the ball up really well. Brendan Aronson in the first half's tackling was really, really good, getting back and nicking the ball off people and just trying to be an extra body. That was all good. Second half, Ethan Ampadu and Anton Stach for me did grow into the game. I think they both started the game pretty slowly in the first half. I think the midfield in general, the midfield looked absolutely off the pace of the game in that first half. It took for Spurs to score, for Leeds to rejig it. It was screaming for Lucas Meche. This was a game that before the match, one of the big talking points was always going to be, how will Leeds deal with that press? We've seen Leeds against sides that have pressed us this season, Brighton, Forest, away from home, and we haven't always dealt with it. And there were moments in the first half where we didn't deal with either. Carl Darlow looking to get caught in possession at one point as well. The defenders giving the ball away in the edge of the box a couple of times. And you wanted to see Leeds go beyond that. The point I'm making on this, I suppose, is for me, this was a game for Lucas Meche and DCL. I thought we'd see that change at halftime. We eventually did see it. And I genuinely thought Lucas Meche, from the second he came on, threw himself around the park, got involved in everything, and was excellent for Leeds in that second half. And one of the reasons why we were able to get back into the game and ultimately get a point that really frustrated Roberto De Zerbi. Devastated for him. Absolutely devastated for him. Before the game, a lot of talk around this game was easy win for Spurs. Leeds will be on the beach. Spurs are flying right now. Look at what we did to Aston Villa. And I think one of the question marks we all had was, were they really that good against Aston Villa, or were Aston Villa just really poor? And I think we got our answer tonight. The one thing I will say, I will give Spurs credit in the first half. I don't think, as I say, Leeds were necessarily on the beach. I did think that Spurs were faster to the ball, were swarming in groups, their movement off the ball was really, really good. Everything about Spurs was really sharp and snappy. Everything about Leeds was a little bit laboured, a little bit pedestrian, and just a little bit reactive. But ultimately, the Leeds defence did enough to keep out what was a consistent enough onslaught from Tottenham Hotspur in that game. And Carl Darlow wasn't really called into much action. There was a couple of close moments in that first half. The one thing that I didn't like about Outanaka twice tonight was turning sideways and pulling out of a tackle. I don't like seeing that. Question marks whether if he'd stood up straight and taken the ball flush in the face, could he have blocked the shot? Because Joe Rodon wasn't far away from it with his head. Be nitpicking, though, with that. But I think a couple of players, not their best games at the office. It's been a tough season for them. So I think we can probably understand it to a certain degree. But ultimately, as I say, what was really important was Leeds get a point. Regardless of whether we're safe or not, we want to see this season out. We want to get as many points on the board as we possibly can. And yeah, it's a bonus to Leeds. Every position they feel they finish higher is more money to the club. Ultimately, that helps us in the summer. A lot of people saying about Willie Gnonto being excellent when he came on and felt sorry for him not playing instead of Noah Okafor. And I agree with that as well. I've been saying for a while now, if Okafor is not available, play Willie Gnonto. It's a like for like swap. But when Okafor is not available, Daniel Farke will play an additional midfielder. And we saw Dan James revert to right wing back. And he does look off the pace of it, Dan James, but I don't think he had a particularly bad game. Matthias Tell is a good player and had a very, very strong first half. And his goal doesn't come from that side of the pitch. His goal doesn't come from a Dan James error. So I thought Dan James did okay playing as a right wing back. He plays there for Wales. Thought he did fine. But going into the game, we'd know Gabby Goodmanson, we'd know Noah Okafor. And then we found out just before kickoff that there was no Jaden Bogle either. So there's a bit of a rejig. He's brought two players onto the bench from the under-21s. We got to see Reece Chadwick, who we've seen before. He's got 20 G&A this season in the under-21. So he's been really, really good. 10 goals and 10 assists. I think last season, 22 or 23 G&A. So he's a player that can create some stuff. If we're looking at bringing young number 10s in, maybe we've already got one in our ranks. And Jaden Lenu as a left-back cover, who's been really, really good for the under-21s this season. He was brought in from Manchester City in the summer and has been excellent and has been training with the first team for the last couple of months. So both of them were there as cover. Dan James is right wing back. Was it going to work? And then the big question coming into the game was, would the safety of our league position now mean Leeds would ease off a little bit? And I just don't think we necessarily did ease off. I just think Spurs came out of the block and we were just a little bit more pedestrian. And we've seen Leeds play like that this season. You know, they've got some decent players. Spurs, they needed to win this game. We knew we didn't, you know, and they definitely played like a side who needed to win and were fired up. Some of our players started really well. Colin Moani started really well. Matthias Tell started very well. Conor Gallagher started very well. They kind of went out of the game a bit towards the back end of the second half once Leeds started to get a grip. But when Leeds need to get going, Leeds get going, and they did get going. You can see on the momentum graph for those watching down below. It was a bit of a spell after they scored. But then Leeds got back into the game, got a penalty, which, by the way, it took 3 minutes to decide whether Ethan Ampadu had been kicked in the face. And for those who are watching the match, when I think it was Colin Moani goes down. No, it was James Maddison goes down off of a tackle from Lucas Mecha, which Mecha gets the ball. Alan Smith on commentary was going ballistic that there should have been a penalty, and VAR had to look at this. When Ethan Ampadu got kicked in the face, he was adamant he'd mistimed the clearance. Now, Ethan Ampadu was over 6 foot in height, was off the ground when he headed the ball, and still managed to get a foot in the face. And there was a question mark out of whether it should or shouldn't be a penalty. And on top of that, the referee continues to play on with a Spurs attack, despite the fact that Leeds have a player down with a head injury. Now, we'll get to Jared Gillett in a couple of minutes' time. But yeah, that was the situation before the game. Young players on the bench, pressure off, few missing, no Okafor missing. Leeds scoring a goal without no Okafor starting the game is something as well. It doesn't happen that often. And when Leeds play that midfield without no Okafor, they don't tend to score that many goals. So the fact that we got one, a penalty albeit, was fine. Again, the substitutions for me were really important. I thought they made an impact. Pascal Struijk hip is clearly at him. He was out all week injured with a hip problem. Made it back for the game. You could see it was a problem. And I thought Willie Nonton made a huge impact on the right-hand side when he came on. I thought Lucas Mecha was excellent. Sebastian Borneo, we've talked about the recruitment team this season and the stick they got at the start of the year and some of the things that were said about the recruitment team. And then you look at the players that have come in, and with the exception of question marks over Lucas Perry, who still did have a very good FA Cup run, I think they've all been absolutely excellent for Leeds this season. Sebastian Borneo comes in for Pascal Struijk, doesn't play a lot of football, but anytime Sebastian Borneo comes in, he looks fine. Again, he was fine tonight, won his headers, cut them off on the left-hand side. He's not even naturally a left-sided player, and he did very, very well there for me. So excellent stuff by Sebastian Borneo when he came in. Sean Longstaff could have got two, only for an outstanding save by Kinski and goal. And if Tottenham Hotspur stay in the league, and if they stay in it by a point, they better give their goalkeeper Kinski a huge amount of credit, because they hammered him for the mistakes that he made in Europe. He kept him in that game tonight with 2 big saves. Joe Rodon's header is an excellent header that he saves. And then the second half, that shot from Sean Longstaff that he connects with perfectly is flying past him, gets a hand touched on the crossbar from point blank range. Massive save from the young goalkeeper. But ultimately, Leeds kept pressing. We got a penalty. We took our goal. Dominic Calvert-Lewin continues his run this season from scoring in a dead straight line against his 13th of the season. And I don't know, you say good sides are measured by how they get results when they don't play particularly well. Another point for Leeds. And again, they didn't play particularly well. And we'll go through all the bits and pieces. Standout performers for me today. I thought Jakobio was absolutely fantastic in that back line. Won everything he had to win. Joe Rodon, again, really, really good beside him. And Dominic Calvert-Lewin won pretty much all his headers or all of his chest backs. Didn't always have players around him, especially in the first half, but thought he was excellent in that game as well. Second half, Ampadu and Stack came into it. El Tanaka for me, very off the pace of it. Not his best game. Again, turned sideways for the goal. Also in the first half, turned sideways, which let, I think it was Porro get in and smash his shot over the crossbar, or Palhinha smash over the crossbar. So don't like seeing that. In the second half, he did get better, and definitely towards that last 10 minutes of normal time plus the 460 minutes of additional time. Where does he get 13 minutes of injury time from? Anyone figure that one out yet? Did he find it on the back of the sofa? Because I knew there'd be some injury time, but I thought maybe it'd be 6 or 7 minutes. 13. Have we seen 13 minutes this season? Nuts. Absolutely nuts for me. And again, you've seen the narrative. They start getting corners in injury time. But again, Leeds breaking Leeds traits this season. And we managed to hang on. Defended really well. That's the plus. There's always two sides to a game of football. How you do when you attack and how you do when you defend. And Leeds defensively were very, very strong tonight. And I'm sure that Daniel Farke will talk about the defense tonight, and he should do. They were excellent tonight, and they protected their goalkeeper as well. Darlow had very little to do considering all of the possession that Tottenham Hotspur had in that match tonight. Referee, let's talk about Jared Gillett, will we? Anyone fancy chat about the referee? Feel free to offload in the comments right now, because we're going to talk about the referee. Awful. Shocking game. Not giving free kicks for what he should have. I've written down here. Polino, for me, should have a red card. His tackle, I think it's on Metcha, it's possibly on Ampadu, is 2 feet straight down into both of his feet. And there's a motion to lift both of them off the ground and come down with both of them. Wasn't even looked at by VAR. Should have been. Pedro Porro, twice, possibly even 3 times, goes over the ball with his studs, down on the player, stands on Lucas Metcha's top of his foot. Now, just because that's not in his shin doesn't make it any less of a red card. That kind of a tackle can very easily break somebody's foot. It's a shocking tackle, and he gets a yellow card for it. VAR don't get involved. It was nice to see VAR get involved in the 2 incidents that ultimately decided the game. The penalty shout for Leeds, and then the non-penalty shout when James Maddison threw himself to the ground. And he should have got a yellow card for that. I don't think the guy that kicked Matthias Tell, I don't think he got a yellow card for kicking Ethan Ampadu in the head. Dangerous play. Should have been a yellow card. But yeah, not a great performance by the referee. Lets loads go that he shouldn't let go. Books these players when doesn't book Spurs players. Gave them so many soft free kicks. And then, but yeah, luckily enough, the VAR were on our side tonight. Other players, sorry, before we got into the game tonight, the other player that was missing was Facundo Buonanotte. Also had a hamstring injury along with Jaden Bogle. So hopefully Bogle is okay for the game on Saturday. Shami is saying it in the comments there as well. Gillett did everything to win it for Spurs. 13 minutes of that's just a crazy amount of injuries. I can't get my head around that one. But yeah, big standpoints in the game were Kinski in goal. The 2 saves that he made. The header from Joe Rodon and the Sean Longstaff one. Leeds could have won that. And then Sean Longstaff gets far too much on the second chance he gets. It's whipped in towards the back post that hits off him and goes across the penalty area. If he gets less on it, DCL's got to tap it. If he gets a better contact in towards the goal, probably scores. But Sean Longstaff made a real impact coming off the bench. And he's done that a couple of times now. So he started the season really strong for us, had his injury, took a while to get back to form after the injury, but has finished the season really, really strong for Leeds. So we'll go through the bits and pieces before we get into your comments. We'll start off with the first. You could also, by the way, stick a like on the video. That would be massively appreciated. It helps us. And if you want to give your ratings for what is here on the screen beside me here, that's from Finalysis. Leeds United fans voting on the players. Nothing else. No algorithms. Nothing else in that. There's a little QR code down the bottom right corner and a link down below. You can scan that or download it for free. And then you can give your votes. And our player of the year will go through that as well. Sir Royston saying, Gillett the best the man can get. Cav get. Yeah. We'll go to the first half. Ultimately, you can see by the momentum graphs, Leeds started fine. Leeds started right on the first foot. The first real chance went to Leeds, but the first 10 minutes it was mostly Spurs. Brendan Aronson in that first 10-15 minutes for me was probably Leeds' best player in terms of what he had to do off the ball. He came back several times, won the ball back. He was fighting for things. Had to keep them as quiet as he could as they're trying to come forward. But when he wasn't reading at the ball up front, he was getting back and helping out defending. They had a half chance from Tell early on. James Justin dealt with it. Could have gone to his own goal, but didn't in the end. Then 20 minutes, Leeds get the first chance. There's a short corner to Brendan Aronson. There's a beautiful whip off Brendan Aronson towards Joe Rodon in the back post. Gets a fantastic header on it, and the keeper manages to stop it on the goal line between the post and his hands. Then it was Spurs, and then it just kept on being Spurs. 25 minutes, Spurs chance. Tell runs at Leeds. Went straight through Tanaka again, and Joe Rodon gets a shot away, but as his shot is leaving his foot, Yacobios slides across and makes a fantastic block. 31 minutes, they had another chance as well. This time it was a low Pedro Porro cross along the box. Richarlison got a shot on it, but Ethan Ampadu took a bit of the sting off that and ultimately went through to Carl Darlow. 32 minutes, a minute later, they got another chance. Leeds gave a corner away because Carl Darlow held on to the ball. Again, the first time this season we've seen the 8-second rule happen. Carl Darlow holds onto the ball too long and a corner kick is given from that corner. It ends up Richarlison's shot is blocked. It comes out to Porro. His shot blocked. We could have caused ourselves all sorts of problems just by that little silly error there. But again, how many times have we seen this year where goalkeepers have held the ball for 10, 15 seconds and no call from the referee? But yep, happens against us. 35 minutes, another Spurs chance. Ball crossed in, was knocked back towards Polino. Tanaka pulls out of the tackle and he gets in and he shoots over the cross. James Justin did enough to put him off, and he smashes the ball over the crossbar. Then Leeds got back into it. 39 minutes. Leeds got their first chance, 40 minutes or 30 minutes at that stage. Anton Stack to Tanaka, who was way off balance and smashes the ball wide. And then 46 minute, we had a shout for a penalty. DCL was running through on goal, but his kneecap and his toe were slightly offside. So no penalty for Leeds. So the way we kind of described the first half, we were doing the watch along over on bigup.com. It was very similar first half to the Chelsea game in the FA Cup by Leeds. Just not off it, a bit pedestrian. Tanaka and Stack weren't in the first half at all. Aronson was doing lots of good work off the ball, trying to win the ball back and cause problems, but ultimately himself and DCL had little to no support when they did manage to get the ball forward. And DCL was winning his headers, holding the ball up, nothing. We will get to Stephen Mullen saying DCL's volley from 25 yards. That was a thing of beauty. Went about 10 yards wide. He must have lined up about 4 times before eventually he decided to feck it. I'm hitting this. So second half, we're going into the second half. I think most people in the watch along were saying the same thing. Change it. 3 at the back, 2 up top. 3-5-2. Just make that change. Do it now. Doesn't. Came out exactly as we were, play as we are, everything the same, and it followed the same momentum. Spurs came out, were the better side. 50 minutes, Spurs got their goal. Matthias Tell, after corner is cleared, Matthias Tell picks the ball up on the right-hand side of Leeds penalty area, facing out. Takes a touch, and it takes Anton Stack and out Tanaka far too long to get out to that ball. And then as the shot is taken, Tanaka turns his body sideways. It goes around the back of his head. I'm not saying he would have blocked it. I would have liked to see him try to get his face in the way of it. Joe Rodon tries to dive across to block it. It's a fantastic shot by Tell, and it finds the top corner. If he was going to find anywhere to put that ball, that was the only spot it was going to go in. It's a fantastic goal by Tell. We can argue whether we could have done better on it or not, but it is a fantastic finish. And then 53 minutes, Leeds start making change. Pascal Strauch's hip is a problem. Off he goes. On comes Sebastian Barnau. I thought at that point you could have brought Mecha on as well. Doesn't. 57 minutes, Spurs got another chance. Colin Moani gets in behind this time after Barnau slips. And then he squares the ball to Richarlison, who's awful effort. And we get away with one, smashes the ball over the crossbar. 60 minutes, Leeds got a half chance. Ampadu links up with DCL. He lays it off to Dan James, again off balance, and he smashes his shot wide. I didn't even write down DCL's volley because it was so far wide. Could even possibly classify it as a chance. Then 62 minutes, the main changes that influenced the game happened. Brendan Aronson, Dan James off, Lucas Mecha, and Willie Nanto on. And this is when it starts to turn very much back in favour. 69 minutes, Leeds could have had a penalty, but they did have a penalty. I wrote down at that time, Leeds could have a penalty here, kick in the face. It took 3 minutes between the referee and the VAR to finally make a decision whether Ethan Ampadu had in fact been kicked in the face at about 6'3" in height off the ground. At that point, got the penalty. Dominic Calvert-Lewin, beautiful penalty. Smashes it same side of the goalkeeper, but higher and over the goalkeeper. 80 minutes, Leeds get another chance. Nanto through the middle, slips the ball in for Lucas Mecha, and he's in. He's going to score all day long, and it is a fantastic tackle at the last second, just as Mecha hits the ball from Mickey Van de Ven. Then we get the most bonkers shout of the entire match. 13 minutes of additional time. But funnily enough, Leeds probably got the best 2 chances in that 97th minute. Nanto with a brilliant ball towards Sean Longstaff, who hits just slips it through for Longstaff, runs onto it, and then he smashes it towards the top corner of the near post, and Kinski gets his hand on it, wrist on it, hits the crossbar, and goes over. Yeah, the comment of DCS 25-yard volley cracked him up. Yeah. And then the 99th minute, Leeds got another chance. Again, it was Longstaff, put towards the back post, gets too much on it, goes all the way across. Interesting moment, though, was the Tottenham Hotspur changes. On comes Jed Spence and James Maddison at the exact same time. And Jed Spence and Daniel Farke have a little moment where over goes James Maddison to Daniel Farke in his technical area, gives him a hug. Didn't get a hug off Jed Spence, though, did he? I wonder why. Can't believe he didn't get a hug off Jed Spence. Didn't even look at him, Jed Spence. But yeah, that was the only other thing. Go through the 2 halves. Positives in the first half were defensive work from Leeds. The blocks were very strong. Good covering in there. Mid-block shape was really, really good. The negatives were we just weren't as quick as they were. Not on the ball. Weren't winning second balls. And midfield was off it. Second half, positives was the reaction to going behind. But we've seen that time and time again this season, that reaction from Leeds. Really, really good stuff. Substitutes made a real impact. Thought Lucas Mecha was excellent. I expect Lucas Mecha to score on Finalysis, which is in the subs category, which is not on here. But I expect that to go up because I thought he was excellent. And for me, Yakabia was man of the match. I thought he was phenomenal at the back today. The negatives, pulling out tackles, don't like seeing that. Tanaka did get better, though, and it should be said. He did get better as the game went on, and he made some very important tackles in injury time as well for Leeds. So, yeah, they wanted to get Spence on earlier, Jer, but he was late. Love it, Steve. Love it. Good man. Yes, we'll get into comments now, but there you go. Another win for Leeds United. We move on to 44 points. It gives Spurs work to do, and it means that they're not safe, and it does a big favour for West Ham United. Who do you want to see go down, West Ham or Spurs? I think I can do polls now. I think I can do a poll now. I'd love to ask you. New poll. See what you think. Who do you want to see go down? We shouldn't be basking in our club's miseries, but you know, it's not us for a change, so why not? Spurs or West Ham? There you go. Polls in. Right, polls in the chat. Okay, Spuds down. There's a poll up there now. You can answer if you can even see it. I don't even know if you can, but we'll find out in a second. We'll jump into some of your comments now. For those listening on the audio, we'll leave the comments in tonight because it's worth talking about. We'll go to the start. A couple of people came into the stream very early. Like the game wasn't over. And Wani, if you're still watching, I'd like to know how you feel now. It was a disappointing first half, though. And Bart had said exactly what I thought. Too defensive, not playing as a team, should have changed things at halftime. And that was before Leeds had scored. That should be pointed out. Anyway, did anyone else see the exquisite ailing flop from Willie Nanto in our penalty box? Yeah, it was excellent. Fantastic stuff there. They really want Spurs to stay up with the officials. They do. Wall Brown says, can anyone tell me where the 13 minutes came from? It's a mystery. It's up there with the wonders of the world. No idea where it came from. Terry McCann said, didn't De Zerbi knock? Yeah, can we talk about this, right? Because I'm not a Spurs fan and I'm not a Roberto De Zerbi fan. But I want to talk about Roberto De Zerbi got booked for leaving his technical area. He got a warning in the first half for doing it. How come Mikel Arteta never gets a warning? No one says anything to him. The fourth official walks over, touches it on his shoulder as he's on the corner flag and politely asks him to go back, which he does. It's mad. There's just different sets of rules for different people. But he gets booked for leaving his technical area after getting a warning in the first half. Danny Rumsey, good evening to you. Danny says, a great result that. Stephen says, according to BBC, we are now called West Ham Premier League. Tottenham helped by West Ham a relegation fight. It takes another twist. It does. Sir Royston says, no, but if Longstaff ball went in, I wouldn't complain about 30. That's true. That's true. Stephen says, can't believe it took them that long to check. Yeah, kick to the face like. A recent form is superb. It is. It absolutely is. Warburton says, brilliant save that from Longstaff, but he should have buried the second shot. Yeah, he gets too much on it. Way too much on it. What happened to Bogle? Hamstring issue. My lad was in hospital and we didn't see him. I hope your lad is all right, Stephen. That's the first and most important part. Bogle will be fine. Mike says, shows again what great strength and depth we have with this squad. So near to winning that game. Yeah, this is, the one thing we didn't do when we stayed up under Bielsa that first season was build in the summer properly. There's a real strong foundation here to build on if they do it right. And they've got, myself and Andrew Stastalta were talking about this earlier on, and we're saying they've got to get it right in the summer. And if they do, we could properly, it's getting so congested in that middle of the Premier League now between where we are and sixth. We could really push on next summer. And again, if the likes of Bournemouth get into the Conference League, and this is why for me there's not a rush to get into Europe next season, because, or the year after even, under the SCR rules, you can spend 85% of your revenue if you're not in Europe, but 70% of your revenue if you are in Europe. Now, for Bournemouth and Brighton, whose revenue isn't huge anyway, if they end up in Europe next season, might be great, but unless you're in the Champions League, you're not really making a lot of money. They can only spend 70% of what is limited enough revenue in the first place. So if we get the summer right, we could really push up here again, but that has to still be proven and has to be done. The Cultured Philosopher says, we're a horrible team to play against, and I love it. But yeah, we are. Absolutely. Nice to see DJ back on the pitch. It really was. SST in the house says, not sure why I cared so much about that, but I'm disappointed we didn't turn up till late and that we didn't win it. Got a point, and I would have taken a point before the game. I would have taken a point earlier in the year. I would have taken a point at this game all day long. Brendan Aronson still, by the way, 18 games now, hasn't won in London in the league. Feel for him. Danny Hill says, hard fought performance, missed the width from good. We really did, didn't we? Really missed Gabby and we really missed Bogle. Richard Shepard said, 20 teams in the Premier League and tonight 19 were Leeds fans. Stephen says, SST, who cared? Because we wanted to be the ones that helped send Spurs down. Didn't do everything, but still point keeps them in the mix of relegation. Does Kimberly in the chat, even to you, Kimberly. Hope you are well. Kieran says, pity the 13 minutes didn't backfire on them. I mean, it would have been poetic, wouldn't it? I think it really would have been. We still have another chance to decide who goes down. Yeah, we got West Ham on the final day of the season. So not only are we safe, but we are also very much have a say in what happens this season. Yet maybe 13 minutes was scandalous, though. It really, really was. Nigel, we should have won, but a good point that changes made a big difference. They did make a big difference. Also, we're now going to London and not losing games. We're not talking about that enough either. That's a big change for us. Luke says 13 minutes, a kick in the head, and the first time 8-second rule, and a point at London. All these and we marched them together. I mean, it's a good point, Luke. SST, I want to see the stadium in the Donkey Derby next season. It's definitely had Bournemouth vibes. That one, it did. In fact, Bournemouth are better side. Bournemouth were really good this year. I mean, I like Antonio Areola. Excellent attacking football that they played. Wani said, I've been critical of Nanto this season, but today he brought some much needed energy. I think Willie Nanto's been good for Leeds this season since he's come off the bench. I think he's handled his place within the squad really maturely. He hasn't thrown his toys out of pram. Anytime he's been asked about it, he's talked about the team first, which is exactly what you want. And given what happened with him before, it's a big step. He's growing up and he's starting to show maturity, and he's still very young. I know people are saying maybe we need an upgrade on Willie Nanto. If he was a under 21 player coming through, you'd be saying he's got loads of time left. Why would we sell him? He's a prospect to keep him. And he is. So I don't know. 1,000 times better as soon as Arsenal went off. I think that was a bit harsh. I didn't think he was playing badly at all, but I did think the players that came on made a massive difference. So the changes did make a difference. Lee says, what a save from nearly nicked at a point. A point away is not bad. It's not. Tanaka a little bit off. It always shocks me how quick Rodon is. He can move, can't he? Against quick players as well. Got a great crossing at one point as well. And Breed says, James. Tanaka was not great. And you know what? You can't be great every week. Some of our players have had great games and then had off matches. And, you know, it's as long as everybody can carry them over the line. And I think he finished the game quite strongly. Same with Anton Stack. Started very slowly. Wasn't in the game in the first half. Finished the game very, very strongly. So, yeah, ultimately we got what we needed to get from it. Benarol should have subbed Tanaka for Longstaff. Could have, but then he does make two very big tackles towards the back end in injury time, Tanaka. Great away record continues, or before injury time, I should say. Declan says, Danny Murphy on TalkSport says Ampadu was the best player by a mile. I thought Bial's defensive work was phenomenal. Every ball that went in the penalty area, he won. Every one of them. Won him. Richarlison, who has been very dangerous, didn't get a sniff. Doesn't get a sniff. Bial doesn't get enough credit for the work that he does for Leeds. The amount of number 9s that have gone up against him this season and done nothing is incredible. And for me, that spine has been really good for Leeds. Anton Stack, Bial, Dominic Calvert-Lewin. That spine has been really strong. Ethan Ampadu in there as well. Excellent season. So yeah, really, really good stuff. Then he says, the Spurs vlogs thought that was a given. They did. Oh, well, what a pity. Never mind. Dave says, not our best performance, but love the never say die attitude. Hope Spurs go down. Stu says, the 13 minutes was a mystery. I get the penalty check added a few. I thought that maybe 7 or 8 at most. But I counted it exactly 3 minutes from when the game was stopped. The penalty was given. 3 minutes. Thought Willie looked damn sharp. He did, Sam. Lee said squad looked a bit threadbare, missing Gabby. Yeah, Nanto should be starting. Well, if Okafor's not there, yeah. Completely agree. I think he should be starting. Pat says, can you imagine if Longstaff had scored? It would have paid as much as someone obviously paid to add on 13 minutes. Still, Sky saying Spurs dropped 2 points, so did well. Johnny says, we had secured our place in the Premier League on merit and not just because West Ham lost yesterday. That is very true, Johnny. If West Ham had won yesterday, would have needed a point, which would have gotten tonight and been saved. Correct. 100%. We haven't been saved in the Premier League by anybody doing 44 points, and we're only talking about being safe now. Given the last, 10 years of Premier League football, where 38 was enough, we should be well clear. Well clear. Spurs just survived last year on 38 points. So, yeah, we haven't been done any favors by anybody. They've earned this. Every single point they've earned this season. Probably should have earned a few more as well. Dick says Tanaka definitely off it until the last 20. Yeah, but he came alive, didn't he? In those last 20. Richard says, I thought we were fantastic away from home. Gained a point when Spurs needed it most. Correct. That be reject says Spurs have to play 2 teams chasing Europe. They could easily not pick up any more points. Longstaff was unlucky. Anthony, good evening to you, mate. And that was a very hard watch. Not what I expected this evening. Vegas says, just play Bayern and then 21 Cairns and goal against West Ham. No, I want to see Spurs go down. Oh, yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah, you're doing the same thing as me. Yeah, sorry, Vega. Sorry. Lee says, Spurs are really bad. No creativity. Madison came on and was all rolling his studs over the ball and left and right and left and right and left and right. I mean, your granny can do that, you know? Your granny can do that. Stephen says, why did anyone think we'd be on the beach? That's not the team that we have constructed. It's not. But the question was, would they be on the beach? Not assuming they would be. Love this team. Pat Kirby says, Villa were bloody shocking. It made Spurs overconfident. Great point from an okay performance, says Steve. Hannah, good evening to you, Hannah. Goodness me, we got the tub. Rub of the green tonight. Rub of the green. Eric says, I think the formation helped counter Spurs. Press downside was we lost width and left DCL isolated. Didn't help that the back line didn't move the ball fast enough. That's a huge point. One of the big things in the first half. Everything about Leeds in that first half was too slow. Pass it too slow. Movement was too slow. There wasn't any really movement at all. There was no movement off the ball. So, yeah, good point. User LUDRCN says Spurs gutless after the equaliser. Keeper kept it. Yeah, they dropped off. I mean, think about what happened when Xavi scored that goal for them a few weeks back against Brighton, and they celebrated like they'd won the FA Cup, and then they concede straight away. You look at that, and you look at this when you go, 25 minutes left, more than 35 minutes left after they scored that goal, like, and you're dropping off. Are you mad? What are you doing? So, yeah. Mark says, what? Battlers to get back into that game. They never give up. Shammy says, I feel sorry for William Anto. Jerry, he should have started over Dan. He was what we were missing when he came on. Some urgency, but Jesus, that referee didn't even stop the game for Ethan's head injury. Rubbish. Not the first time we've had a player down with a head injury at the game. Also, thoughts on Richarlison's swinging arm on Yacobial's 40. He's a lovely lump on his head, Bial. Really, really missed Okafor. I think Dan James starts, by the way, because he plays right wing back for Wales. And he can do that job instead of Bogle. I think that's why he starts ahead of Willie. I think if Willie's going to start, he plays instead of Stack or Aronson. Or Tanaka, you know. Dick says, what was all the playing from the back? Glad it wasn't important. Yeah, we tried playing from the back again tonight. Don't love it. Right, there's so many comments I'm not going to get to, so I'm going to go to some more recent ones. Lee says, the Zerbi having the cheek to complain about the ref. Imagine 13 minutes of injury time we got. Give over, pal. Michelle says, El was poor again. I thought his passing percentage must have been low. Had his moments, but too many bad passes. Yeah, he left a few short. Let's have a little look at what El Tanaka's passing was actually for tonight, because we can check that. We can check that. We do have an option to do that. His passing tonight. Passes, El Tanaka. 73%. 30 of his 41 passes were complete. Passes in the opposition half was 68%. Passing in his own half was 79%. Long ball accuracy was 50%. 2 of his 4. So not the worst, but yeah, some big ones tonight we left short. 30 minutes added on. What about the corner against Darlow? Haven't seen it. Any other match where the ref was... the 8-second rule. The Barnell was very good. The Barnell. Stephen says, my beach comment was about Spurs vloggers thinking, yeah, I made a beach comment as well, but yeah. Fill it through it. Yep. And Richard Hogan says, Tanaka has more strength than Dan James or Brendan. Thought Tanaka played well and was good in the tackle situations. I thought that his interceptions were good in terms of reading the middle. Ball between the lines. Thought he did that really, really well. Sloppy on the ball, but, two sides of the game. Big shout out to Sebastian Barnau. Played calmly, brilliantly when he came in for Pascal. He was very calm. Madison is bargain based in Modric. I still would take him if they went down next season. Will Phelan says, Jamie Carragher said, we look like an established Premier League size, and Ethan Ampadu is his favourite midfielder this season and really impressed with him. Daniel Farke described Ethan Ampadu as the best central defensive midfielder in the Premier League. He might not be wrong. Kieran Greenan says, I hope the lads phone it in against the Hammers. I'll just say, if Gellert gets Hull into the Premier League, that'll put another 10 million on his price. Yeah, Joe Gellert scored the winner tonight for Hull as they won 2-0 against Millwall to go into the playoff final. Hopefully he's got better crack at the playoff final this time versus the last time. I don't think the stats agree with you, Jared Tanaka, but happy to be proven wrong. Tanaka's passing percentage 73%. Let's look at his defensive statistics tonight. Tackles, he won 3 out of 3. His tackles were good. Interceptions 2. Ground duels 4 of 10 he won. Aerial duels 2 of 3 he won. So yeah, Again, not his best game, but that's okay. It's absolutely okay. He can't be perfect every game. He's had a great season. Really, really good for Leeds this season. Not criticizing them. Brennan Ghost says 48 points and 13th place has been my prediction since Christmas. Looks good at the moment. Just wish I put a bet. You'd be cursing if it didn't happen, though. Alan says that Nando made a big difference when he came on. DJ had found it hard to get going into the game. I still think he kept Tell relatively controlled. And Chris Johnson says their fans are pitiful and their songs were even worse. Yeah, March on Together ringing around that stadium was impressive. Red Bull Leeds United, don't change that name, will you? I know what you're doing. Change that name. If we need a point tonight, it would have been a different game. Yeah, we got the point anyway. So ultimately, it didn't matter. And MJ Wolves, I disagree. Tanaka is too small, pushed off the ball, gives it away more than he keeps it. And I find him very irritating. Well, the irritating is a personal preference and got little to do with football. But I generally don't think Tanaka gives the ball away easily. I thought tonight he was sloppy, but I'm talking about tonight. I'm not talking about him in general. In general, I find him to be quite tidy on the ball. And again, tackle-wise, I think he does quite well. You know, and Paul Robinson hates us. He does. Right, folks, I think we'll wrap it up there. Massive thanks for those who joined me. It's a late one tonight, but I really appreciate you joining me tonight. If you do want to stick a like on the video, you can. If you want to subscribe to the channel for daily Leeds news and more of this content, you're welcome to if you feel like it. And also, just if you want to, you don't have to. Finalysis is completely free. If you want to download the app using the QR code in the bottom corner or the link down below, you can give me a follow at Leeds View over there as well. And you can submit your own scores for each of Leeds games, which we'll be using on all of our content this rest of this year and all of next season as well. So you can get involved in that if you want to. Outside of that, have a cracking rest of your day and evening. I'll be back tomorrow morning with the fallout from the game and some more Leeds news. And I'll talk to you then. Have a great rest of your night. Well done to the boys. See you later.